So it just seems as though we can't help ourselves in letting our children down. The state of New Jersey's education system has just eliminated at the beginning of this school year the reading, writing, and math basic skills test in order to become a teacher. Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb.
New Jersey's largest teachers union wants to get rid of a basic skills test requirement for aspiring educators. It posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, quote, "We need you to take action." Exclamation point. Last year, New Jersey eliminated the EDTPA, a barrier to becoming a certified teacher. Now it's time to eliminate another barrier, the basic skills test for teachers. Urge Governor Murphy to sign Senate Bill 1553 right away. The union claims this will help with the teacher shortage, but others say it just adds more fuel to the trend of students falling behind. Cassie, you have a daughter, and I know in D.C., and I know that you're trying to decide how to educate her.
Yes. Well, so my husband and I, when we were dating, he's like, I'm all public school, and I went to the Catholic school growing up. He was like, I got a great education. Our kids are going public school. And now he's like, we need to save our pennies. We are going to private school, or we need to. And it's not even like, oh, let's move to this good zip code, because it used to be your zip code could determine your education. Well, Fairfax County, Virginia, incredibly affluent county, and that's the epicenter of all this school board nonsense. So school choice is the answer to this conversation, because we know the national report card is in the tank, failing grades across the board. And now you're going to say, oh, let's just lower the barrier to entry for the people educating our kids, our most prized possessions. Everything we've been talking about today harkens back to the kids are not all right. They're getting their education in news from TikTok. So this just doesn't bode well for us. But yeah, shout out to my husband for moving in my direction.
Jeremy, you also, how are you educating your oldest right now?
That's right. So we have a 4-year-old, my oldest, and we have her in a Christian preschool, right, which we can trust. We know that she's getting those values that are important to us, and so we're thankful for that. But we're having a lot of conversations about what that's going to look like once she starts elementary school, and are we going to, continue in a private school setting, public school? So my wife and I were having a lot of discussions, and even homeschooling now is on the rise, in response to a lot of this madness in our.
Well, how dare you say that, Brandy Weingarten? It's because homeschooling is on the rise because of gun violence.
It's crazy. I mean, these people, they're so disconnected with reality. It's insane. And my wife was homeschooled for much of her life. And what's so funny is that now I'm like trying to talk to my mother-in-law, get my mother-in-law out of retirement so she can homeschool our little ones. I'm like, we're trying to get her back to help out because it's scary when you think about where our education system is going.
Tammy, this is, you have to pass a skills test to become a hairstylist, to be a manicurist, but not to educate the nation's children.
Right, and I think it speaks to the fact of that they've been failing for a generation or two already. So that these people who went through the same system got taught nothing. So their room of people to choose from doesn't know what to do. As a matter of fact, and we are perpetuating that, Oregon the Department of Education has eliminated basic reading, writing, and math skills as requirements for graduation from high school. So those will be the next teacher group, right? It's madness, and that clearly it has to stop.
Yeah.
Well, the teachers in New York City sued over this and said that the disparity between the basic skills scorers was irrelevant. It was how they taught. They sued over this issue.
Oh. And they won, and it got better. It got better.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, I just, it's so laughable if it wasn't so absolutely destructive to our nation's children and the education. So first of all, I literally thought when I saw that X tweet, I thought it was a joke at first, because it was like, now it's time to call for removal of the next barrier, the basic skills system. That's not a barrier. That's the fundamental qualifications for a position description.
Lowest bar.
Yeah. Next time you go into surgery, oh, hey, doctor, don't worry about passing your test. I don't care if you know what is the difference between my spleen and my kidney. This is a joke. Instead of meeting the kids where they are and meeting the teachers where they are, which is rock bottom, and maybe investing in the actual education of them, they are saying, oh, don't worry about it, honey. Oh, here's your diploma anyway, in case I hurt your feelings along the way. I am so frightened for our future, because it will be led by absolutely uneducated idiots that think they are doing me a favor by dumbing me down.
So here we go. We have a school system, and they're absolutely right. Talking about Oregon, the Oregon state has eliminated the reading, writing, and mathematics assessment in order to graduate high school. So what does that mean? That means that there is no accountability for releasing these young citizens into the country, and they're now in the job market. And we do not know whether or not they can read, they can write, they can do math. All of the skills that you're going to have to do, even just at a entry-level fast food, you have to be able to do math. You'll be able to count out the change. I mean, I understand, you have the teller machine is doing the counting, but you still have to get those pennies and nickels and dimes and start counting them out in order to make sure that you get the customer the correct change. So, I mean, mathematics is super important. Never mind being able to read instructions and things like that. So here we have teachers in New Jersey that no longer have to pass or take an exam that lets the school board know, or the school Department of Education inside New Jersey know, that their teachers that they're hiring can read, write, and do mathematics. Now, here's the big problem. The teachers' unions have said that this is a good thing to eliminate this test because it eliminates the barriers in order to become a teacher, and it helps them fix the teacher shortage. Here's the problem. Because they said that this basic skills test was a barrier, that means the people that were applying for the jobs were failing the exam. That's what that means. If it was just take the exam, doesn't matter what your score is, and you get to be a teacher, then it wouldn't be a barrier. So that means the basics of reading, writing, and math were too hard for these teachers, potential teachers, and they were not passing the exam, which then led them not to be hired. So the barrier was that the people that were going to be entrusted to teach your children could not write, they could not read, and they could not do math. Let that sink in for a second. It's only a barrier if they were failing it. And for this to be a basic skills test in order to have our teachers be entrusted with the education of our young children and our middle-aged children and our high schooler students, this is absolutely despicable. This is why education is on the downslope inside the United States of America. If you go back and look at the 50s and 60s and 70s of our education, the United States was near the top. Now we are being eclipsed by nations in Asia, in Europe, and it's because people spend more time learning about their pronouns and the feelings of other people rather than the education that is needed to be a stalwart member of our society and move our country into the future. I do not know if you've seen the movie Idiocracy, but it is a huge satire of exactly what we're talking about, that in the future that people are just so stupid that they have to have computers do everything for them. And the premise of the movie is there's two average or below average intelligence current present day people that get frozen and sent into the future. And even though they were average or below average in current society, in the future these two are hailed as geniuses. And so it goes about that movie. I may see if I can put a little clip of the movie here. We'll see if I can not get a copyright strike, but I'll play just a smidgen of that for you.
And we're stuck with the dumbest people in history.
If you have one bucket that holds 2 gallons and another bucket that holds 5 gallons, how many buckets do you have?
2? What would you do?
Excuse me, I'm actually supposed to be getting out of prison.
You're in the wrong line.
I'm the smartest guy in the world? Says who?
The IQ test you took in prison. You got the highest score in history.
You've been smarter in prison? Come on.
But still, it is just an absolute travesty that we are looking at dumbing down the entry requirements for being a teacher, and those people are the ones that are going to be responsible for teaching our children. Now, I went to public education for middle school and high school and college, went to a state school in Huntsville, Texas. And, I think I got a great education. I really do. However, that was when there was nothing being taught other than reading, writing, arithmetic, civics. We had to take a finance class where we had to learn how to write a check and how to balance a checkbook. Those things aren't being done now. Gavin Newsom has had this epiphany and said, hey, we should introduce personal finance to our high school students. Yeah, it used to be there. But all of those things have been cut so that we can concentrate on pronouns and DEI and whose fault it is that not everybody is ahead, or this group's ahead or that group's ahead. Look, the purpose of the public education system is to make sure that you have great Americans entering into society in order to keep moving the ball down the field as we move our country into the future. But I remember looking at, even when I was in high school, I saw a copy of the teacher's textbook. So we all had textbooks issued to us by the school, and you had to sign for them, and you had to turn them in good working order. So you had to do the covers on the books and things like that. But I happened to see a teacher's version of the same textbook that I had, and it was a little thicker, it was a little bigger. And when you open it up, it had the same text on the interior, but on the exterior, in the margins, it had blue font, and it had basically it spoon-fed the teachers on how to lead the class discussion. So it had whatever paragraph on World War II, and then in the column it said, make sure to ask your students on, I'm going to make this up, ask your students on who were the top 10 generals in World War II for the Allies. And you've got old Monty, you've got Patton, you've got Eisenhower, you've got MacArthur, and things like that versus Rommel and on the German side and those people. So, but I looked at that and I was like, man, to be a teacher, all you have to do is be able to read these blue margins on the side and be able to do this class discussion, and you're Johnny on the spot, like your lesson plan is already done. Well, now in New Jersey, the teachers aren't going to be able to read those blue margins to lead those class discussions because they don't have to know how to read to become a teacher in New Jersey. So even that little easy button that the teachers had when I was in high school in the 80s and 90s is now going to be removed because the teachers can't read. They can't prove that they can read. And I think this is huge news for us. It's going to be systemic down the pipeline again, in reference to Oregon, where the children graduating no longer have to prove they can read and write and do math. That is horrific. Which means that they will complain that they can't get into college, or they'll dumb down college. And then they'll make sure, in order to have everybody graduate college, that there's no proof or rationale for them to get a degree where they can read, write, and do arithmetic as well, because then it's just not going to be fair that they failed a class or whatever. So now they're going to be entering in the white-collar workforce with a degree, a bachelor's degree, or heaven forbid they go get a master's degree, and they're going to say, hey, look, I need you to read this report and summarize it and give it back to me. And they're not going to be able to do it because they didn't learn how to read in high school. They got passed along to a state college. They weren't challenged there because it's not fair to challenge students anymore. And they'll now go into the workforce and they won't be able to accomplish any tasks. And then that will truly be the downfall of our society. I saw this. I couldn't believe. I'm outraged. Let me know in the comments whether you think this is okay, which there's people that are like, hey, I don't care as long as we have the seat filled because I'm just using it as daycare anyway, and I don't care if my my child learns anything. I hope that's not the case, but let me know if you're in favor of eliminating this, or if you are outraged like I am and see that this is a huge problem. Leave that in the comments below. I really do. I try and respond to as many comments as I possibly can, but this was just too outlandish not to bring to you. So thanks so much for tuning into Azimuth Podcast, and please stay tuned after these messages.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.